What's going on, everybody? What's up, Marty Scott? What's up, Paul? What's up, Andy?
This is Robert's Report, your leader in combat sports and rock music. And now, your host of Robert's Report, Craig Vegas Roberts.
Yeah, got to work a little bit on that transition. Oh well. Welcome, everybody. Robert's Report. I'm Craig Vegas Roberts, of course. I gotta get rid of these sunglasses. I can't see anything. And the hat's making me hot. Maybe I better leave it on. It's kind of taking away some of the shine on my forehead. How's everybody doing this evening? Welcome back to Robert's Report. It's been since around, I don't know, April or so, I think, since last broadcast. What's up there, Marty Scott? Appreciate your moral support there. Appreciate him helping in the very beginning of this. We ran this as a team there for a little bit, and he decided to go off and do his own thing, which is cool, but he's always there for technical support whenever I need him, so I appreciate that. And so I've got, there's been all kinds of things that's happened since then, since our last broadcast. Of course, we're still dealing with the, thanks, Adam. We're still dealing with the whole COVID thing, and, we're dealing with the COVID thing. I don't know what else to say other than that. But we hear enough of that on the other channels, so we're not going to talk about that. So, Betrayed by the Bullet. We had an interview with them March of last year. Was it March of last year, Brandon? Something like that, or this year? I'm sorry, or was it? It's been a year. It has been a year. Okay, so we had an interview with Betrayed by the Bullet. They announced they were pulling stuff back together and putting some new tunes, going to the studio. Well, they do have a new single out. I would like to play a little piece of it. I'm not going to play the whole thing because I don't want to take away from the whole evening of the interview, but I would like to play a little piece of it here just to kind of give it a little bit of promo. So here you go. And of course, feedback is always welcome.
starts again. And you think you've heard this one, but the words aren't ever ending. You feel it creeping in, an unnerving feeling as the cracks begin to show. The truth, it seems, is right before you. The pieces fall to the ground. The voices rise all around you. It's all you can stand. Repeating, you see the same again. Every single day, always. Repeat as you see. Believing, you see the same again. Every single day, always. They burn.
All right, I'm not sure how to fade it out, so we're just gonna it's gonna go right back over. Oh, that was not too bad of a transition. All right, so how you guys can give feedback on that, and I just had somebody say that my audio was low. Is anybody else having issues with my audio? Please speak now or forever hold your peace. In the meantime, oh, thanks, Bobby. He says his mistake. Yeah, turn the volume up there. All right, so just a little bit of a resume here for Betrayed by the Bullet. We went over this before, but those that don't know about Betrayed by the Bullet, they are from the Mid-Ohio Valley here. They kind of got things together around 2011, officially as a band 2014. They were making some pretty good waves here in the Mid-Ohio Valley for several years during the Big Rick era, which in that time there was several bands they played with. Pop Evil, Saliva, Ghosts of August, Letters from the Fire, Puddle of Mud, Starset, and of course West Virginia's own Boba Flex when they were still together. I don't know if there was any other ones that I missed, but I know those are the ones off the top of my head and from past notes. But without further ado here, I'm going to flip on over here to our guest of the night, Mr. Brandon Gribble. Shit. Yeah, Brandon is the... if you can't read, he's lead guitarist backing vocals for Betrayed by the Bullet, and he's here to kind of talk to us. And I'll be honest with you, Brandon, I didn't have much time to prepare an interview tonight, so we're going to be shooting from the hip here for a little bit. But, you and I have never had too much problem just carrying on conversation before, so you got the new single out, and the first thing my first feedback on it, and we kind of touched on this a little bit before, is the maturity in the band is amazing. It's and I think even some of the older bands that are out have issues every now and then of just certain marriages that just don't quite go together, or certain, and it's a give and take thing. You got a lot of talented people in your band. I mean, every one of you have got a hidden talent, or not hidden now, but and so if you want to kind of comment on, kind of build on that whole maturity model that you've all built around Betrayed by the Bullet now.
All right. What's up, guys? Well, as far as the maturation goes, I think it's very evident in this song, just from everybody. Like, for example, some of us learned to pull back a lot more. Like, we're only playing guitars for about half the song, really. Mason really had to pull back on the drums, and that's if you're as good a drummer as he is, that's pretty hard to do. And then I will tell anybody this, like Sean just crushed that chorus. Like I think it's easily the best one, his best work so far, and I don't even think it's close.
Yeah, and it kind of I don't know what your I know some of your influences, but the band as a whole, what would you consider the sound of the band's? I mean, there's several influences even in this song. I mean, I can pick a few out, but I'd rather not put words in your mouth. So, what are some of the influences?
Well, I'd imagine it's pretty easy to pick out that there was a little bit of a classical influence on this song, given the amount of the orchestral arrangement, particularly in the beginning and throughout the song. But honestly, writing this next record, I really try not to put too much thought into that. I think we just try to sit there and we just try to be us more than anything. I think that's the most important thing we can do. And that kind of helps with the maturation, particularly in the songwriting too. I don't want to get stuck like pegged on, okay, we sound like this, so we got to do this or sound like this.
Yeah, I got kind of a, I don't want to say an eerie, melancholy. I don't know if that's the way you say it or not, but a good example, I guess. And I hate to compare it to other bands, but it kind of reminds me of a Ghost sound almost, in some of the eerie, I don't know, background sounds. I don't know. That's just part of what I got out of it.
I mean, I can give you a layout pretty much of how the song got wrote if you'd like to hear that.
Yeah, sure. Just maybe a small synopsis of it wouldn't be.
So I had that intro wrote a long time ago before I'd quit the band. And so when we got back together, that was one of the first things I'd brought to the band. And the storyline for the song actually came from a buddy of mine and Sean's. He had a dream one night where he was stuck in a church, and just to shorten the story, it was more or less purgatory. And this choir was just singing an eerie refrain over and over and over again. And he went up eventually and asked the Reverend what's going on. And he was wondering if he was in hell or not. And he said, no, you're not right now, but you will be. And that was just really ironic because I worked with the guy, and I was putting the song together the night before, and I brought it into work, and I was listening to it while we were doing stuff, and he told me about his dream, and I was like, dude, you know what? We're going to use that. So we appreciate that a lot, because I personally think it's the best song we've done so far.
Yep, I agree 100%. When do you think I know you've been working on other songs as well. Do you have you want to wrap around this one here, but you and I have talked before on strategies for releasing music. Do you have more music ready to come out now, or are you still sort of piecing things together? I know you all work, y'all have jobs now, and so, band time, I'm sure, is more scheduled than let's just go jam.
Yeah, I mean, it's increasingly more difficult this time around, just for the fact that Mason lives about 3.5 hours away now.
Oh, geez, didn't know that.
Yeah, so him coming in, like, we pretty much have to make a whole day out of it, or a weekend, or whatever it may be. But yeah, we do have another song that is, for the most part, pretty much done. The reason this first song took so long is because I'm recording it, and I've never done this before, period. So, like, I get off work, and I spend, like, 4 to 5 hours after work working on it, trying to figure out what the hell it is I'm doing. Luckily, I got a little bit of a rhythm now, so we would have actually had this last song recorded this week, but I actually got pretty sick earlier in the week, so we weren't able to get anything done. But I would say you will see that next single sooner than later.
Awesome. Okay. Does Mason have capability of recording tracks or anything at all there, or is it?
Yeah, we got some drum mics. He leaves his acoustic kit in Parkersburg, or Belpre, I guess, is where we play. But he has an electronic kit where he lives because his complex, he can't be like jamming loud drums anyway, so he just jams his electric kit there, and then when he comes down here, we mic up the acoustic kit and get to work.
Gotcha. Okay. So over the last few months here, of course, the whole COVID thing hit, and threw the whole entertainment industry into a downward spiral. Has this? I mean, how did this? I mean, you all had plans on touring and everything, or not touring, but doing some songs, and of course, we've had some talks with about Big Rick here in the area. We were really hoping that Big Rick would be able to come back and do some booking here in the area, and of course that didn't happen for some reason or other. What how has COVID hurt you all that much, really, or not too much, really?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, we had a good bit of shows lined up for this year, as you probably already know, and our big show where we were coming back was going to be April 11th, which is the day after my birthday, and our first show back in 5 years. I was personally really excited about that. That meant a lot to me, but
right.
COVID said otherwise, and COVID actually, in a roundabout way, is why Big Rick is not here with us either. I know he had intended on coming back, and I'd talked with him at length. I'm not going to share too much about it because it's his story, but
right,
he had a lot of plans, and it was going to be very impactful, and it would have been good for everybody. Anybody that plays music around here, it would have been good, but in a roundabout way, COVID is why he had to go somewhere else as well, which is a bummer, man, because I'm not trying to throw shade at 103, but I mean, they're not as helpful, I guess you could say, as they used to be, and they don't really they're not well, I mean, in my opinion, they're not really appreciating their homegrown talent as much anymore as they used to.
Yeah, I get that completely. And with the whole Big Rick thing, I'd talked to him, not since we've talked, Brandon, but I have talked to him before, and he's more than willing to come on, and that'll be a big Roberts Report podcast. I can't wait to get him back on. We had him on once before when they were talking about when him and Brian were actually still booking bands, and we were at the Dill Center then, I believe, and we spent easily 2 hours talking to Rick just about past shows and some of the stories that they had. But I think that it would be advantageous for us to have one, just what you were kind of hinting towards there, just to kind of get everything out into the open, because this area is and has always been a live music area. I mean, at one point in time, they were, back, I hate to say the word, but because they were crooks and assholes, but Yellowbeards, was an awesome venue if it just would have been ran by a good person. And then we had, of course, in Adelphia, and then we had Fishbone, and then we had Sixpence. So we had 4 really good, solid venues here in the Mid Ohio Valley, and people showed up to. And then the Eagles. We had the Eagles at one point in time. That was probably one of the biggest venues. They had Seether out there. They had Blackstone Cherry, and some Burn Halo, some bands that we would have never heard of if it hadn't been for Big Rick and Brian.
Yeah, and one thing real quick, it's so depressing now that we saw a lot of good shows at the Eagles Club, and now it's the DMV. So it went from being this awesome place to like the worst place on planet Earth. But, yeah, I think as far as Big Rick goes, I think he went very underappreciated for the most part around here, and it's a bummer because he did bring a lot to our neighborhood. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we've seen And there's a lot of stuff that this band has done that just wouldn't have happened without them. Like our release show in 2015, like it would not have even been remotely as successful if it wasn't for Brian and Rick. You know, we're eternally grateful for those guys. They did a lot for us and for everybody around here.
Right, right. And now I don't even know, you might know, is the Adelphia even, are they even planning on doing live band things anymore? Or have you heard?
See, the thing with the Adelphia is since they're in Ohio, that I think their rules are a little more strict than ours are at the moment. But I know that I get pop-ups on Facebook every now and then that, you know, they're booking shows what looks to be like in 2021. So, I mean,
Yeah.
we'll see. I mean, I think everybody's just kind of waiting
Right.
at this point to see what happens at the turn of the year.
Yeah, I posted on our page there that what was that one festival that was coming out, and I don't think it's till October of next year or not, but it's of course it's in California where they can pull, you know.
Yeah, is it like Aftershock or
Aftershock,
something?
that's it. Yes, yes, sir. Yep. It had like a Limp Bizkit and My Chemical Romance, and of course Metallica, and all kinds of hard hitters. Which still no word on Sonic Temple. To be honest with you, I don't see Sonic Temple happening next year. I just don't see how. I don't see how they can. Ohio is already very iffy on the COVID restrictions, and you know, to be able to make a solid commitment to all those bands. I mean, the amount of money that it takes to bring all the, and the amount of planning and everything, I just don't see it happening. Do you? I mean,
It's tough. Like I said, everybody's just kind of waiting. I mean, we're all just waiting to see what in the hell is going to happen because, you know, the thing is nobody knows.
yeah,
And that's what sucks about it, the uncertainty with everything. And, you know, I feel pretty bad for these bands that are like mid-level bands, you know, like these
yeah,
big ass bands. They can live off their streams and
Right.
whatnot, and they can make a living. But these mid-level bands, like Shallow Side, for example,
Yep.
like they're going to be in some big trouble if they can't get any kind of shows booked. I mean, I don't have to tell you or anybody listening, really. You all know how it is. Like, you don't make money off of records anymore. You don't make really money off streams. You make money off playing live shows and selling merch and stuff like that. It's not.
Right.
It's not a record game anymore.
yeah. I was kind of thinking about that the other day. You know, even, I mean, when you talk mid-level bands, even some of the ones that are on Octane right now, that I don't see them being as, you know, as a good example. I don't know. Hailstorm might, you know, that level. That's probably about the ceiling there. Anything from there down, I don't. They're gonna be hurting.
Yeah, and like the way I would look at mid-level bands is like, you know how when festivals set up their lineup and you got like the first 5 or 6 bands are real big text and then they start to get a little smaller. That's the bands that are probably hurting more than anybody right
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
now.
You jumped there just for a second. Okay, came back. Let's see. I was just thinking. Some bands that are coming back out. That I'm pretty excited about. Egypt Central with the old lineup with John Falls. They're supposed to be getting back together. That reason why they broke up was a big mess anyway. I don't know if you followed them in any way, shape, or form, but
Not in particular, but I know I've listened to a few of their songs. I know they're definitely talented, and they definitely they have a unique sound that they bring to the table, which I always appreciate.
yeah, them and another one too that's kind of an odd band is Attack Attack. They're out of Columbus, Ohio. They're pulling their original lineup back together, which I thought was kind of interesting because Caleb Somos pretty much said whenever they closed that down that it was done. But have you, by the way, have you seen Beartooth live?
I have not.
Oh my God, you got to. I don't know if you're a big fan of. I know you're kind of iffy on some of you're picky on your music and stuff, but their live show was incredible. We got to see them with one of our last rock shows actually was with them. A Day to Remember, I Prevail, and I forget what the other one was. It was another opener, but yeah, they were incredible. So
I will tell you this: A Day to Remember. I saw them back in 2011, and there's actually someone who just joined the video that I went to saw this show with. But dude, they had to have put on the best show I've ever seen in my life. Like,
Day to
they
Remember?
absolutely bring it every time they play, and it's like the singer, he got into like this inflatable ball and was like running around singing in the mosh pit, and then they threw like a ton of toilet paper rolls were just flying all over the place in the mosh pit. It was one of the most unique things I've ever seen, and like their energy level is just up there, and they sound just like they do on the records too, which is very impressive considering the amount of singing and screaming that has to be done, and he can still hit all his notes and stuff.
Yeah, and then the last show we saw there, they pulled off "If It Means a Lot to You," an acoustic. Just his vocals haven't gone away, and it amazes me with, like you said, the amount of screaming and the amount of energy that they put on, and it was an incredible show. You're exactly right. We seen them at God, man, I should have prepared more for this stuff. But what was the traveling kind of punk show that they
Warped Tour.
Warped Tour? There you go. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
They did a side stage actually at Warped Tour, along with oh, Jesus.
Bugs.
God damn it. In the end, what's the name of them? You know who I'm talking about.
No.
As we fade into the night. Okay, I won't sing to everybody. But anyway, they were on a side stage, which was quite amazing. And he actually came over. Jeremy actually came over and talked to people and gave autographs and stuff. And I guess where I'm kind of going with that is they seem to have that connection with their fans. Sort of like Pop Evil and some of the. Even Five Finger Death Punch to a certain extent with their fans. They're big, but if they see you out, they will still stop, talk to you, get autographs. And I wish all of the bands were like that. It just I've talked about this before, but there's really, it seems like once a lot of them get big, they become a douche.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to do. Some people are commenting. I think the band you were talking about is Black Veil Brides.
There you go. Thank you. Ask my wife. Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Missy. Not Lincoln Park, Mason. That's a different.
No, that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, you'd remember that one.
And so Scott says, regarding the Bear, I'm not sure it's entirely their fault. Radio stations are going to be broke these days. This is very minimal staff. The Bear is basically a computer mounted in a 19-inch rack. You're exactly right. That's everything's sort of going to satellite radio now too. I mean, terrestrial radio's just you turn it on now. Even you hear the same. You hear Blackstone Cherry, AC/DC, Puddle of Mud, and they're not even newer songs. They're songs from like 7 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite catchphrase with 103 right now is playing your favorite songs from 1996. So.
Yeah. Yep, you're exactly right. Yep. But yeah, like Scott, let's see, they pretty much pull a stream off the. Yes, Sean said they pretty much pull a stream off the internet and broadcast it. Yes, Haley, we need more Betrayed by the Bullet on the Bear.
Hey, we tried. It ain't gonna happen.
you may have more luck at pulling it off on Octane anymore. There's a here lately. I mean, I actually took a break from Octane. Missy and I, when we get in the car, we go between usually Hair Nation and Octane. And Octane, I took a break from them for a little bit and came back, and it seems to me like they're hitting up a lot more newer bands that I hadn't heard of before. I don't know if have you tried or gotten any response from them with anything?
Yeah, that's actually something we've never really put much thought into, because you know, the way things sit right now with the music industry is like streaming is obviously taken over. I mean, it started gaining traction a good bit about 5 years ago, right when we started to gain a little bit of steam, and now it's kind of becoming the thing. And I think you see it more and more with local radio stations kind of dying out.
Right.
But as far as like getting on satellite radio, I don't know how easy or difficult that would be. I'm sure it's not easy, otherwise everybody would be doing it. But I mean, I've seen I don't know what I guess you could call it a budget for getting on there, and it would probably cost about 15 grand.
For getting on satellite radio?
Yeah, that was quite a few years ago. It might be different now, but because a lot of these the bands that are getting put on there are somebody's backing it with money more often than not.
Huh, that's interesting. I would think that because especially their fast track, I forget what they call their up and coming. They do have some of the, I guess, let's see, what's a good example? Well, actually, Bring Me the Horizon was one of the ones that they had one song that came off, and after that it was just boom, 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 boom. I'm not a real big fan of them, but that was kind of the way they got started. And then Nothing More was another one that kind of blew up. They were an opening band for somebody or other, and then their radio station, or I shouldn't say their satellite crew, somebody or other had seen them, and then they just bugged them. It's kind of like a job interview, I think, from what I gathered from Shallow Side, because they were able to get a couple of their songs in a slight rotation. I don't want to say they were full blown all the time, but there was a couple of their songs that ended up on there. But I don't know. It's maybe the Mid Ohio Valley can take this song here and try to bombard their Twitter account with it or something or other, and try to.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I'm sure if enough people call in, they'd have to play it. I mean,
right.
What other option do they have?
Right. Yep. So, out of what are you listening to these days? What's your listening to anything new or?
I'll be honest with messing with this single that we just released. I've probably listened to that at least 10,000 times, I'd say, and that's been one of the only things I've been listening to, just nitpicking it and trying to get everything good. But I've gone back and kind of listened to a record that I kind of put on the shelf for a while. Everybody knows I'm a big Avenged Sevenfold fan, but I didn't pay too much attention to The Stage whenever they released it back in 2016. It was kind of off-putting to me at first. Of course, I was going through a weird transition. I went from not playing metal to kind of playing pop and kind of doing my own solo thing. But I've recently gone back and picked it up, and I just sat down and realized, like, this is actually a musical masterpiece.
Which album was it again?
The Stage.
The Stage. Oh, okay, yeah.
It was very progressive for them, and at first I didn't really, like I said, I was going through different kind of phases at the time, but I go back and listen to it now, and it really is just like a musical masterpiece. Like, there is so much going on there, and the way they transition from part to part is just unreal. And that's kind of something that whenever we met up last, I think it was last weekend or the weekend before, that was something I was talking to the guys about. It's we need to start challenging ourselves to be better musicians, because if we sit down as we are right now and write more music, it's just going to sound just like Silence. I mean, there is a level of maturation there, but I really want to push that skill set as high as we can go. Like, the best way to put it is, I was telling the guys, it's like, when was the last time you challenged yourself to learn something that actually took you a few days instead of just like 10 minutes? And that's kind of where I want to get at with these guys going on this next record. Just to, I mean, I want to put out something that when it comes out, I want people to be like, holy shit, like, these guys they're very much trending in the right direction. They are becoming exponentially better than what they were.
Well, and another, to just kind of add to that, it's no secret either with your guitar influence around Sinister Gates. That, by far, one of the best guitarists in the world, if not the best now, since we lost, obviously, Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
and he's it never comes up in a conversation, though.
yeah, and it's disappointing because, you know what, dude? Like, if you ever just sit down and watch that guy just play, he can literally play anything, like, and flawlessly too. Like, he'll play jazz, he'll play gypsy jazz, he'll play country, he can play pop, and obviously he plays metal really well. I mean, he's we're very fortunate to have that talent, especially that came up in an era where lead guitar was not that prevalent. I mean, you think about City of Evil, it came out in 2004, and it made waves. Like, people forget, like, Avenged Sevenfold won Best New Artist over Panic at the Disco and Rihanna in 2005, I believe. And that is saying a lot. And a lot of that, I do believe, has to do with Sinister Gates and the talent that he brings to the table. He's just...
Right.
I wouldn't be half the guitarist I am without him. And I'm sure, like, he has his influences, but, like, he was definitely mine for sure. And I feel like he does go underappreciated a lot. You see, like, these top guitarist lists, and he might be like 10 or 11, and I'm like, nah, you guys just don't get it. Like, he's so influential and incredibly talented too, man. I mean, can't knock his talent. You might not like Avenged Sevenfold, but you can't knock his talent for sure.
And it actually comes from strong roots too. From what I understand, his father was a hell of a guitarist as well. Actually,
Yes.
he was on. He did a song with Sinister Gates on the not the first album, but the not the Screaming album. What was the one after that? City of Evil.
Yeah, I think of the song with Sidewinder. Him and his
Yes.
dad are going back and forth on the acoustic guitar. I'll tell you something else about Brian Hayner Sr. too. Is, do you ever watch the Jeff Dunham show?
Yes.
He wrote the theme song.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. That's
That guy is-
interesting.
That guy's immensely talented. Like, I love my dad and all, but man, if he was a badass guitar player, I could not imagine where I would even be at right now with that guidance. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, so one of the questions, we had a question here. Let me see, we've got to back up a little bit. Mike Patton was asking what your inspiration for solo was.
Is that the lead singer of Faith No More? I'm glad he's joining us.
Maintenance.
Okay, so there wasn't any inspiration in particular. Like, I wasn't trying to be like, I want to sound like this. What you guys got to realize is, whenever we were putting this song together, we haven't put anything out in like 5 years. So my thought was I got a lot to say, and I speak through guitar, and I wanted people to know when they heard that solo, I wanted them to be like, holy shit, that was good. And that was pretty much my inspiration for that the whole time. It's just within myself. I wanted to make that absolutely as good as it could possibly be. I can tell you a little bit of how it came to be real quick. When Avenged Sevenfold was writing Hail to the King, one of the things that
Still there?
Yeah. You hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. The screen froze up a little bit, but when Avenged Sevenfold was writing Hail to the King, one of the things Sinister Gates did was he actually took some inspiration from the late great Eddie Van Halen, and what he did when he wrote his solos, he would chop it up piece by piece. So like instead of him just running through the whole minute or minute and a half, he would chop it up into like 4 or 5 parts. So that's kind of something I did on that Apocrypha solo too, and if you listen to it, you can kind of hear the parts where they transition from piece to piece, and what that does is whenever you write it piece by piece, you can write it off the cuff a little better. Instead of trying to ad-lib the whole thing, you're ad-libbing just piece by piece. And what that does is it really it lets your mind go, and you can kind of challenge yourself to write more intricate pieces in and out of it. Now, I will say I did that with this solo, but the next song, well, we can talk about the next single here in a minute.
Yeah.
Go ahead and say anything else you need to say.
Well, not to bounce around here, but bounce back to the stage there. You were talking about Avenged Sevenfold's stage and the masterpiece in it. When the stage song first came out, I was like, man, this sucks.
Yeah.
There's a lot of songs that do that. Even I'm a huge Linkin Park. I've always been a Linkin Park fan. And, whenever they first came up with some of their poppy stuff, I was like, oh, God, this is the end of Linkin Park now. And then I got starting to listen to some of that. And then and now you've got, Machine Gun Kelly is actually kind of working on a little bit of pop stuff. I think it's awesome when you use your talent for going outside of the box now. I wasn't a big fan of it first, especially with Avenged Sevenfold. I wasn't a real big fan of that, but after I got to listen to some of the lyrics and some of what went into it, we talk about Sinister Gates. We don't talk even about Zacky Vengeance, his production and his videography and special effects, and I mean that's his. The covers of everything. That's his thing.
Yeah.
So you put all that shit together, and the stage, that whole, and even the cartoon song that came off of the self-titled song.
That's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
A Little Piece of Heaven.
A Little Piece of Heaven. Yep. All of that was just, Zacky Vengeance. I mean, I know you're Sinister Gates, but my God, Zacky Vengeance is right up there. He can do a lot, especially in the production side of it.
And I'll tell you another. Of course, their new drummer on that record, he killed it too. But excuse me. M Shadows lyrically, I think, really tapped into something different on that, because that whole record, it's not a concept record, but it is conceptual. So all the songs kind of revolve around more or less the same thing, which is kind of like this idea of artificial intelligence and that being the end-all, be-all of humanity. And the fact that he can lyrically pull all of that together, like that is just insane. I mean, lyrically, it's a masterpiece too. Like, it's one of them things where you got to listen to it more than once,
Right.
Because I think we both agree at first it was kind of off-putting, like, what the hell is this? And then you kind of sit down and you listen to it again, and you're like, okay, I get it.
What I don't understand is on their first album that came out, was it Sound the Trumpets or something like that? Or
yeah, it sucked ass. If I'm being honest, it was not very good.
It was a completely, as Scott Martin used to say, the Cookie Monster song. It's Cookie Monster, that type of thing.
Yeah.
But there was one song that came off of that album, and it's actually my wife and I's favorite song of Avenged Sevenfold, and it's Warmness of the Soul.
That is a good one, I'm not going to lie. I ain't listened to it in a long time, but it is a good one.
And they just recently started throwing it back into their set list.
Really?
Not completely. Some of them they would sing it, and some of it Zacky Vengeance and Sinister would do a complete guitar rendition of it.
Oh, that's cool.
But that was, and you're right. The rest of besides, what's the other song off of that?
I gotta be honest, I listened to that record like twice, and I was like, eh. But
Yeah, I got to look it up here. But while I'm looking at up here, talk about you want to go ahead and talk about the next single you got coming out.
yeah, okay. So one common theme that we're trying to really push forward on this next record and next set of songs is we want to keep trying to do the unexpected. That's kind of something I took away from the stage. It's like the stage, it always takes a turn when you don't think it would, and somehow they just transition perfect. So this first single was pretty laid back, and it's got a real monster groove to it, and it takes a while to develop. And I won't speak too much on the next single, but it doesn't take too long to develop, and it is in your face pretty much from the get-go. It takes about half a second to just be in your face, and it's definitely more up-tempo than the last one. Apocrypha, like I said, it's more laid back, and the next single, I mean, I'll go ahead and tell you guys what the song's called. It's called Black, and it's definitely high energy. So Mason didn't really get too much of a chance to shine in this single we just released, because obviously it's just so like head bobbing. But man, Mason crushes it on this next song, and I can't wait for you guys to hear it, because dude, Mason, and if you know Mason, like as a human being, like he's high energy, so like it's just natural for him to just be like. So when we did Apocrypha, it was kind of like we really had to pull him back a little bit, and we did a few takes of it, and we had to like work some kinks out and whatnot. But whenever we recorded Black, he just sat in and he did shit that I was just not even expecting him to do, and I was like, Jesus, dude. So I mean, Mason fans will love this next one for sure.
Yeah, and there again, I mean, you talk about the, I mean, not just maturity, but learning, your skill sets, improve.
Yes.
The more you do it. So with Mason, I mean, he's been how old were you all when you all did your first show? Let's say yourself. You 16, 15, somewhere around there, or?
Me personally, and I can speak for Sean too. I think we didn't play. Excuse me. We didn't play our first show until we were in Betrayed, and I was, I think, 19, and Sean would have been 21. Mason might have played some shows prior to us. Of course, he didn't join for about a year and a half or so. But I can tell you, like, everybody that knows Mason loves Mason, and he's like one of the greatest human beings of all time. Like, that's it. If you don't mind, I'll tell you that whenever we were on this show last year,
mm-hmm.
and we didn't have a drummer or a bass player, and I'd like to talk about the bass player here in a little bit too.
Yes.
Man, we were looking hard for a drummer, and we knew that Mason might be a little guy, but his shoes are big ones to fill. Like, he might be small, but as far as drumming, his shoe size is about a 25. And we knew we were asking a lot for someone else to walk in, and we auditioned one guy, and it wasn't going bad, but the direction that his capability of playing was not as, like, he wasn't influenced with metal and stuff like Mason is, so it would have had to have been we would have had to transition musically into something more like groove oriented, which, we were open to doing, and the guy ended up not wanting to do it, which, that's completely okay. So I talked with Mason back and forth a lot, and I was like, hey dude, like, you gotta do it, like, we need you, like, everybody loves you and you gotta do it. And it felt like he had a lot of self-doubt, and then I did everything I could to kind of like talk him out of it, and mm-hmm. him living so far away was kind of an issue too. He was really worried about that, and I basically was like, come on, let's just give it a try, dude. We'll figure it out, because we're not going to find someone that's better than you around here. Like, no offense to anybody else. Let's not say better, but not someone that fits us, because I think... and and this isn't to toot the three of our horns or anything like that, but I think when people think Betrayed from 2015, I think they think Sean, Brandon, Mason for the most part. I think the three of us kind of spearhead that, and then I agree, Mike. But yeah, and then once Mason came in, and it was just so weird. We just like immediately clicked, like it was like 5 years ago. It was the craziest thing. Mason was like, "Man, I don't know if I can do it anymore or not." And then we played Call Out, and of course, the drums are real intricate on that. And like I said, Mason was like, "I don't know if I can do it." Then he just comes in like, I was like, "Yeah, you still got it, dude."
Now, what about Paul Smith?
Now, Paul was, of course, he's our other guitar player. Paul was very observant whenever he saw that we were putting out the teasers and whatnot. And he basically, I wouldn't say he bombarded me, but like as soon as he knew what was going on, he just shot me a message. And he was like, "Hey, man, are you all getting back together?" And I was like, I mean, I don't really want to say too much right now because this was right before we were dropping everything. But, one of the things with Paul, and probably the biggest reason that we brought him on board is because he's so damn dedicated, dude. Like, I would bet he practices more than anybody else in the band. Like, if I was being honest, like he takes it very seriously.
He definitely travels more.
Yeah, he does too. That's the crazy thing. Like, of course, he hasn't had to do it so much this year with all the crazy shit going on. But Paul had that rare quality where, like, excuse me, still getting over that sickness. But Paul had that rare quality where, like, he just genuinely like cared and absolutely wanted to do it and was 100% about it. And that was just something that we couldn't deny whatsoever. And it helps he's a pretty good guitar player too.
Now, what about your you were going to talk about your bass player?
Yeah, okay, so Jesse has been a very surprising addition. Jesse Rivers is our new bass player, for those who don't know. Paul actually brought him along, so y'all can thank Paul for this too. And I'm not throwing any shade at anybody else who used to play bass in the band, but Jesse is an absolute freak of nature on the bass. Like, I don't know if you guys that have listened to the single have turned up the bass, but like when the instruments and the guitars drop out on the verse, it's pretty much Sean Mason, that little violin thing I'm playing, and then the bass guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And his his bass lines throughout that verse, like the first and the second verse is much cooler, but like he's absolutely the best bass player we've ever had. And his bass lines kind of make the verses, in my opinion, of the new single. Like, just he does stuff that, like, the way he explains when he writes, he was like, I just write like tonally what I think should go there, and like we have never ever had that. It's just weird. Like, the best way to describe it is, on the last record, the bass was just there, and it was what it was. But now moving forward, like, for the first time that we've been a band, like, our bass is actually an asset at this point. And Jesse's a really good singer too, and he helped write a lot of the lyrics and the melody to the single that's going to be coming out maybe at the end of next month.
And something that's kind of funny, because people do give, and it is funny sometimes, people give bass players a bad rap when they don't really play an instrument, they don't really know how to play, blah, blah, blah. But my God, you got some huge-ass bands out there that, if it wasn't for their bass players, that, they're just, Kiss, Gene Simmons is, Van Halen,
Mm-hmm.
with of course with the old, Mikey, but
the best way I would say for you guys to really understand how good Jesse is at what he does is, whenever you listen to the chorus of Apocrypha, crank that bass up and then just feel in your body where that bass hits in
Yeah.
correspondence, like with Sean's vocals and whatnot. Like it's just the weirdest thing ever. Like the bass is exactly where it needs to be, and that's exactly what you want.
And it's funny because I didn't really think about that until you just said that. Now that I think about it, in my headphones, I could definitely tell it was a little more bass heavy than a normal Betrayed by the Bullet song.
Yeah, and I made sure that I wanted to really pump it up harder, but general mixing rules, you don't really want to do that. Like some of the
Yeah.
some of the first mixes we did, I just cranked that bass up so much just because, dude, he just did a fantastic job. And it's just, like I said, it's not something we've ever had that was a weapon. Normally it was just kind of like there.
Yeah.
Now it's something
I love
that we can
bass.
actually use.
I love the bassy sound. If it's mixed right, I like it.
Well, hopefully I did a good job on that. So
Well, so far it sounds like everybody that has commented on the podcast tonight that they've enjoyed it. So now Mason did kind of comment on here, but just in case people didn't quite understand why Betrayed by the Bullet broke up in the first place. Would you care to hit on that just for a little bit? I know he commented on there and mentioned it, but I'd kind of like for those that aren't really looking at comments to.
yeah, I mean, and I'll be straight up honest with you. There was our old bass player, and we won't name his name or whatever, but he got involved with a girl who got way too involved with the business side of things, and there was she was just crossing lines and crossing boundaries, and it just got to the point where they went, like I said, if I'm being honest, they went out on a big headhunting mission with me because she didn't particularly like me because I kind of saw through her BS. I knew that she was kind of just very manipulative and was really just in it for herself, and undermined a lot of things, like I said, cross boundaries, and just tried to make things really difficult. She made up this elaborate story about how I was trying to steal money from the band, which anybody who knows me knows I would never ever do that. Like, band is and was my life, and it always will be. I mean, I care so much about it. I eat, sleep, and breathe it, especially at the time. Like, it was the reason why I woke up every morning. I mean, but yeah, it just eventually came to a head where I was like, hey, if this don't change, then I'm out. And then that, it didn't change, so I left. And then not too long after that, the band obviously had broke up, and we had all kind of talked about it and whatnot, and everybody kind of came to an understanding now that we're older that issues like that can't be happening anymore. Like, everybody makes mistakes. I'm sure I made some in the past, no doubt, and not throwing anybody under the bus or anything like that, except that bitch. I will throw her under the bus, but I mean, we were kids, man. I mean, and I don't hold that against anybody else, but there was just something about it at the time that I was not comfortable with, and I had every right to be, and it didn't change, so I left. And then after that, I think everybody kind of saw it for what it was, and that's why the band split up. And then a few years later, we're adults now, and we sit down and we talk about it, and we're like, hey man, we gotta, it's water under the bridge at this point. We all shake hands, we apologize, we hug it out, and everything's good now. All the bad apples are gone. The tree's ready to grow better fruit at this point. And, here we are. Now we're putting out better music than we ever did. It was a good experience. Ideally, that shouldn't have happened, because we lost 5 years that we're never going to get back. But
Right.
now that that's gone, we take a lot of those experiences and we put it into motion now, and we
You got to
apply
take it as a positive. You got to
Yeah,
take it
yeah.
as a
Yeah, for
learning
sure.
experience, and it's like you said, it's good to be straight up. I mean,
I won't beat around the bush about it at all. I mean, I'll tell you exactly how it was. But like you said, we got to make it a positive. And one of the positives about it is that while I was gone, I learned how to do like audio recording and production and stuff, which actually is hugely beneficial to us now. And Sean didn't stop singing. Sean kept writing songs. So whenever we met back up again, it was literally like nothing had changed. Whenever we finally were like, you know what, we gotta go do this again. So when we got back together, like I said, it was just like the old days. I mean,
So have you all thought about doing a lot of bands are doing some streaming shows now, obviously, to kind of offset their off the road. Adelita's Way was they were hitting it hard there for a little while. It seemed like every other day they were on there. You have any thoughts of doing it? Or do you have the capability of doing it?
we could definitely do it. The question is like I said, with Mason living so far away, is that really time beneficial to us at this point? Because our goal, since we have so much time on our hands, is to just write as much music as we can and put out really good music. So, to talk about that a little bit, like I was saying before, how the radio is obviously dying. I think everybody knows that. And like streaming is pretty much where it's at now. So when you're streaming, you need to be putting out songs a lot. So we want to ideally be putting songs out like every 6 to 8 weeks, more or less. So that's going to involve a lot of recording and whatnot. But I will tell you this, man. At some point, I would love to live stream an acoustic show, and I would love to record an acoustic EP. I think you'll see that at some point. But for right now, the focus is to get some of these singles out and then get geared up for a big old record. Because we're foaming at the mouth, I think. And if we just take time out of that to do acoustic stuff, I think it'd actually be a hindrance to us instead of a step forward.
To be honest, and that brings up a good point, too, the whole acoustic thing. I don't think you're in... people may disagree with me, but unless you can throw down a quality acoustic show, I don't necessarily put you in the same skill set as a lot of other people that play. I don't know if that makes any sense or not, because there's a good example. I talked earlier about Bring Me the Horizon. I honestly don't think they could do an acoustic show.
Yeah, well, they would have some issues just for the fact that like some of their old stuff is just like like it'd be very hard to do that. Now, I will say, I've written a couple different acoustic versions of some of our older songs, and yeah, you would be surprised. It actually sounds pretty cool. I think Hell Knows actually was really cool acoustically. Silence, I actually was able to find a good acoustic rendition of that. Obviously, Down was already acoustic.
Now, you all did an acoustic set, didn't you, up at Adelphia, if I remember right?
No, we did it at The Rim. Shout out Brad Smith. I know you're watching. We did one there, and I got to be honest, the only thing that sucks about that is like we put a lot of time into that, but we didn't have enough time to make it as like tight as I would like it. So it wasn't as good as I would have liked it to have been, or tight, But I can pretty much guarantee you'll see an acoustic EP from us at some point. Like it's something I've always wanted to do, but like we're just so laser focused on like, okay, it's been 5 years. We got to put like music together, like music that we used to write, like rock music, heavy metal, stuff like that.
Yeah, my wife just mentioned she mentioned that there's a lot of maturity in this new song. You can tell that you all meshed well together. Excited to hear what the future brings, and I am too.
I can tell you it's bright. I can tell you that much.
Well, Brandon, I do appreciate you taking some time to talk on here. I'm trying to limit our podcast down to an hour, because I think after an hour of people talking that they start fading away or whatever. But once we get some more music out, maybe into the first quarter of next year, maybe we can link back up again, maybe with the whole band. I think it would be pretty awesome to.
Yeah, I would like to do that too.
And I appreciate you hopping on here at a very short notice. I had been, obviously, if anybody out there didn't know, I completely moved the room that I was using before, and there, without seeing the room, I'll may post some pictures of it or whatever, but it's like a complete 180 from my original studio. So, but again, I appreciate your time. And oh, Waking the Fallen was the album I was talking about earlier instead of instead of the trumpets. And the song is, and I just took it off of there, was Waking the Fallen, Waking the Fallen. You play it just about every single...
Unholy Confession.
There you go. There you go. Thank you. Yep. The mind isn't what it used to be, Brandon. Whenever you get into, when you get around almost 50, you'll start to experience it. That's why I've got a pad of paper, and I didn't have anything. So,
Can't
anyway.
wait.
But I appreciate everybody tuning in this evening, and Brandon, I'm going to go ahead and pop you off the screen here.
All right. Thanks for having me, bud.
Yep, no problem, man. And on over here. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate all your support over the last few months and sticking with me if you did come back. If you didn't, if you're new, then thanks for coming over. I do plan on some interviews with some higher level people as well. I don't want to say higher level as in Brandon's not a higher level, because Betrayed by the Bull is huge here in the Mid-Ohio Valley. But you know, some of the, if you want to go back and look at some of the past guests I had, Mark Schenker from the band Kix was on here. Had the drummer for Trickster on here the past. That's also in the videos if you want to go back and check that out. Of course, some of the older ones, I was talking about Big Rick, interviews on there for that. And I've got some people I actually have been in contact with, Egypt Central as well. So the plan is to try to get them on there in between the machines starting back up and live music starting again, and try to find out, you know, exactly what's going on with them. So, but anyway, I appreciate everybody tuning in this evening, and I will be posting events as the interviews are booked. And other than that, y'all have a great Sunday evening, a great week, and we'll be talking soon. There we go. Roll that beautiful bean footage. And a quick shout out also, of course, to Code Red Riot and Shallow Side for the opening song. New music from them coming out as well.
Can you still hear me?
Have a great week, everybody. Appreciate your support. Streaming is